Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, good afternoon. Oh, there you are. I knew you were out there. I could see you. I could hear you breathing. Welcome to the Tuesday, August 24th, 2010 joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency.
Housing. We'll do the Glendale Housing Authority meeting of August 24th, 2010. May we have a roll call, please?
Housing Authority members: Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Mincy.
Here.
Najarian. Barazian.
Here.
Weaver.
Here.
Chair Quintero.
Here. May we have your report?
The agenda for the August 24, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Thursday, August 19, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
What's next?
Next is approval of minutes.
So moved. Second. The minutes stand approved as submitted. Next, please.
Next is oral communication. There was one card submitted. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision, and the matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for investigation and report.
I have one card. Herbert Milano.
Good afternoon. Housing Authority Chair Quintero, members of the Housing Authority and city staff. My name is Herbert Milano. It is on hot days like today that I keep this reminder that I've kept on for so many years with regard to our lack of adequate aquatic facilities for our youth. I've been doing this thing for many, many years, and yet we still see no traction. I don't see, the groundbreaking. And I believe that, many kids who are probably in elementary school have already grown up, gone to college, and never had a chance to really partake of a municipal facility. And I think that it is a darn shame that other communities surrounding us, Pasadena, Los Angeles, Burbank, they all provide open-air aquatic facilities, and Glendale still does not. And it seems like it takes incredibly forever in design and redesign and talking about this thing for years on end, and still we don't have any action. And I think that this is one of the critical elements that we need to be able to provide for kids, to have a place to go, to have activities for them to go. And it looks like to me as if the youth of Glendale really don't have a voice unless other agencies and nonprofits and so forth take up the task. I think that for one half of the pension of Randy Adams that he might expect in his lifetime, we could have paid for that swimming pool. For half the pension of Mr. Bob McFall, plus half the pension of retired Police Chief Gray, we could have had that swimming pool. Here is the situation, is that when you look down at it, those pensions and the pension obligation have a significant impact on the quality of life of our kids and our families. There is no doubt in my mind that it does. And so whenever, the City Council decides that they are going to continue to upgrade the pensions at 90% of their last pay, it's incredible. It turns into tens of millions of dollars that at the end of the day, we don't have to even provide facilities for our kids. It's like if they come in with a huge truck, sucking the money right out of Glendale and going out there to live in Santa Clarita, because for those kids, they have a swimming pool in Santa Clarita. I've been asking for a really nice aquatic facility like the ones they have in Henderson. They have 10 of them. A place for our kids to play is part of the quality of life that we should be asking for, and we don't have the money. We talk about art, we don't have the money. We talk about many other things, we don't have the money because it's being sucked right into the pension system. We need to change that. At the end of the day, that money is not serving the residents of Glendale. It is an issue that we need to establish the type of priorities so that we take care of the infrastructure, we take care of these needs of the community, and then whatever money is left over, then we'll put it in pensions. But I think we got it all reversed. How does it benefit us to have someone who basically is going to be spending their retirement years at the age of 55 driving a $300,000 RV, driving all over the country? That's not going to benefit us. Our kids need a place to play. They need activities where they, we talk about this quality of life measure having to do with obesity. How we're not going to have obesity as a problem when we don't provide the adequate facilities for them. I know my tone of voice is not what you want. But it is a frustration of years and years and years of asking that the priorities be set correctly. Those agreements with the fire department are hurting us tremendously, because then you have the police department trying to fit to that agreement. And then you have the GMA trying to fit to that agreement. And everybody's out there trying to figure out how much money they're going to extract from the taxpayers and the ratepayers. The quality of life of the city of Glendale depends on the money that is available for those programs, for those facilities, and we don't have it. We cannot even discuss basic artwork for the general public because there is no money. Well, we know where the money is gone, and it is my hope that you truly rethink and put the priorities for the residents of Glendale for the type of programs and facilities that are in dire need in the city. Thank you very much.
The original comment began by talking about the pool that I believe has been funded, the design has been completed, and when are we breaking ground,
Mr. Quintero, members of the Housing Authority, City Council members, you did approve final plans for the pool some time ago. The plans are in, final plan check. We'll be going to bid very soon, and we are still on track for the original opening of the pool sometime next summer. So,
I'm looking forward to it, Mr. Starbird. All right, I have another card for oral communications, which was submitted after the Mr. Mohill knows my feelings about this, but I did not announce that. So anyway, Mr. Mohill, you have your 5 minutes of oral communication.
Thank you, Councilman Frank Quintero. Mike Mohill, long-term resident. Mr. Milano got my juices going. Talked about the Pacific Pool. 2003, when we crashed that thing and said, hey, folks, one day you're going to have another swimming pool. Here we are in 2010, 7 years later. And in 7 years, as Mr. Milano would say, the pensions for the city employees have gone up, up, up. Just like the recession, it keeps going up, up, up. Why don't we change the pension plan now so we can have a swimming pool? And also one for North Glendale. Mr. Weaver remembers when we had the key at Verdugo Park. They took that out for a parking lot, I believe, or something else, and there's no swimming pool up in North Glendale. We are a city of over 200,000 people, and we're going to have a wading pool for the public, 6 lanes at Pacific Park. We should be proud of ourselves. We should put that with the art on Brand Boulevard. Same category. Where are our priorities? Like I tell the public, the first priority of government today is not art, it's not fixing the potholes, it's not the libraries for the public, it's making sure that our city employees get their pension. That's the first priority. The next priority are the current wages. After that's done, about 70 to 80% of our budget, if not more in some areas, what's left over is the dribbles and the drabbles for art, for the swimming pool, for the library, for the potholes. We need to reconstruct our streets. We are falling apart slowly and slowly. And we're looking more and more like Los Angeles, Mr. Weaver, how you like to brag about us. We need to have our priorities. Public housing. That's a nice one for me, for the veterans, and even for the non-veterans. But we don't have any money for those people. Why not? Because all the money's going to where first, folks? You got it. Pensions. Pensions, pensions, pensions. Randy Adams is our poster boy. Next follow him is Mr. Bob McFall. $20,000 a month pension. Wow. But he even has a cost of living allowance too. My heart bleeds for that gentleman. Please, council members, I don't want to be sing the same song and dance like I do every week about pensions and salaries. But a swimming pool is important for both South Glendale and North Glendale. Why don't we put on the budget plan? How about a swimming pool for Montrose, Mr. Draymond? Is there a public swimming pool up there? I don't think so. We are a city of over 200,000 people, and we have limited parks and aquatic facilities, second best. Thank you.
Okay, once again, the swimming pool at Pacific Park is going out to bid, so it should be built quickly. It's a full-service pool, I might add. It's not a wading pool, although it has that component, but both Mr. Milano and Mr. Mohill will be able to swim laps anytime they want. Mr. Weaver.
Well, I thought I was sitting at the Housing Authority meeting, and all I've heard is pension plans again. All we hear from about 4 people in this town is pensions, pensions, pensions. Everything that is wrong with this city can be blamed on the pensions that previous councils gave to the employees. It's great to have hindsight and look back and say, well, gee, 10 years ago when I was here, in fact, I was the only one here, I participated in giving pay raises to employees, and I should have known what was going to happen 10 years later. But everything is wrong is blamed on pensions. Too bad there's only 4 or 5 people in this town that support that theory. And I don't know what a swimming pool has to do with the Housing Authority, but I'll tell you what, you go out to the city of San Fernando that built a beautiful swimming pool complex. They're running a deficit. They're trying to get somebody to take it over because they can't afford it. And LA, if anybody thinks that this town is an equal of LA, LA can't hold a candle to this city in any way, shape, or form, whether it's budget, streets, trees, you name it. And to bring that stuff up here again in the Housing Authority, and I guess we'll hear about pensions in redevelopment, and we'll hear on pensions again tonight from the same people over and over. Again, I suggest those people run for city council and get up here and correct all the mistakes the councils over the years have made. We're all so dumb up here, we just didn't see the future. Really beats it.
Okay.
Mr. Quintero, I guess you could have stopped him from talking on pensions, so this is the Housing Authority, right?
You always manage to put a nexus. There's a nexus.
Oh, yeah. Really.
Their opening
Nexus.
comment in the next 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
Just get tired of it.
Mr. Starbird, did you?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mohill has mentioned on several occasions the figure for Mr. McFall's retirement. I don't think he knows what Mr. McFall's retirement is any more than I do. But if he were to do the math correctly, he'd find out based on Bob's years with the city, his retirement is likely far, far away from the figure Mr. Mohill is quoting.
All right, we're not going to let facts stand in the way of presentations, Mr. Starbird. Okay, next, please.
Chair and members of the authority, at 6 under business agenda is Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing regarding implementation of various Housing Authority program enhancements and a new program development in support of affordable housing for veterans, VTRAP. At 6.1 is a motion approving implementation of program enhancements to single-family rehabilitation, first-time homebuyer, and moving assistance grant programs, to amend the authority's statements of interest and to establish a pilot rental assistance program for veterans. At 6.2 is a resolution appropriating $34,000 to provide funds for the establishment of the VTRAP.
Mr. Starbird.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll go to Peter Zovak, Deputy Director for Community Redevelopment and Housing. Peter?
Mr. Chair, members of the Housing Authority, at its meeting of July 13th, the Housing Authority received a report on affordable housing program enhancements and new programs that the authority could provide that would result in preferences to lower-income veterans who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Based upon discussions, the authority directed Community Redevelopment and Housing staff to formalize certain recommendations immediately while continuing to research and explore other options. With regards to the immediate formalization of certain recommendations, the authority directed CRH staff to prepare a report that would implement program enhancements to its existing single-family rehabilitation program and first-time homebuyer program, amend the Housing Authority's statement of interest to include a Housing Authority desire to consider new construction development proposals that may include veterans' preferences, and establish a pilot veterans rental assistance program. Consistent with that direction, staff has prepared a motion and is seeking Housing Authority adoption that would provide the following, or take the following actions. The first would be to modify the single-family rehabilitation program guidelines to provide a 0% simple interest rehab loan to low-income veteran households, a 2% simple interest rehabilitation loan to moderate-income veteran households, and up to $10,000 rehabilitation grant for low-income veteran households. In addition, we're seeking to modify the first-time homebuyer program guidelines to provide up to $85,000 in down payment assistance to qualified moderate-income first-time homebuyer veteran households, and is seeking to modify the first-time homebuyer program guidelines to be consistent with VA guidelines. We're also seeking to amend and begin marketing the Housing Authority Statement of Interest, or remarketing, I should say, the Housing Authority Statement of Interest to include the Housing Authority's desire to consider new construction development proposals that include a veteran's preference. We are seeking authorization to establish a pilot veterans rental assistance program we're calling VETRAP, and are seeking authorization to modify the moving assistance grant program that would permit serving the VETRAP households that we intend to serve. Although not subject to any Housing Authority action today or in this report, a sixth Veterans Housing Assistance Initiative is planned for implementation within the next few months. The program is offered via an award of funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development under the Shelter Plus Care program that is administered by the Community Development Block Grant section. The purpose of the Shelter Plus Care program is to provide permanent housing in connection with supportive services to chronically homeless individuals with disabilities. We're pleased to announce that this particular award of funding, it's a 5-year award of funding from HUD, has been designated to serve 5 chronically homeless single veteran households. So with that, if the approval by the Housing Authority is given, we seek to enact these program enhancements immediately and begin to market the VETRAP program as well.
Okay, well, let me start by thanking Mr. Lanzafane, Mr. Zovak, Mr. Nakamoto, and the staff that's here this afternoon. They all worked together in a very efficient manner, did loads of research, visited veterans' locations, countless phone calls, and have put together what I think is a tremendous plan. And I also think it's something that this is sort of the tip of the iceberg. I think this is something that across the nation, from what I've been able to understand across the nation, there's going to be more and more interest and more work being done in this area, and primarily for the returning veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan war. So I think we're ahead of where other housing authorities will be eventually. But the idea of the coordination that you've done and the outreach you've done to the Veterans Department, to CalVet, et cetera, I think has just really done an excellent job. So, any other comments, Mr. Weaver?
Well, I'd like to thank Mr. Quintero, my fellow veteran, for starting this. It's about time we and the rest of this country did more for the veterans. This isn't handing out a bunch of money or whatever, but it is helping them in ways that are a little small thanks for what our veterans have done for the country. So I hope this will, as you say, spread across the country, and more cities will look at these kind of initiatives.
Well, my primary concern is not for veterans our age.
Yeah, we're over the hill.
Although I've often talked to Mr. Weaver about wherever he moves, I'll be moving as we continue our aging process. So maybe we'll wind up in a veterans housing units here in. But anyway, it's not for veterans our age. My primary concern, as I've mentioned before, is these returning veterans, male and females. This is a different profile that we've had in the past with the National Guard, with the Army Reserve, with the Marine Reserve. These are individual men and women who, quite frankly, didn't think that this would happen to them. The continual deployments, et cetera, the job losses, the children that are involved. So this is a different type of profile from the ones of my Vietnam era and perhaps even other Korean War and other eras. So that's where I think, and that's what I like. I mean, everything the staff has done in terms of the kind of services, broad outreach, that's where I think they've really done a wonderful job of doing a comprehensive, it's just the beginning, but heading in that direction. Ms. Friedman?
First, a question. Are any of these programs targeted at the recently returning veterans, or is that impossible to do? And I'm not saying that we even should do that, but out of curiosity, is there a way to target those people or to provide whatever special services they might need?
And leave Mr. Quintero and I out?
And leave Mr. Quintero, Mr. Weaver out?
Of the program menu that we had discussed, the VET-RAP program is looking to serve recently separated veterans.
Okay.
As we discussed previously in the previous meeting, the VET-RAP program is going to offer rental housing assistance to veterans in conjunction with employment training under an existing grant that's being administered by the Verdugo Job Center. That existing grant is required to provide priority to recently separated veterans. So we are combining those two elements. So we intend and hope that the outcome of the VET-RAP program would be recently separated veterans.
Okay.
The others would be open to veterans at wide, whether it's recently separated or beyond that.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I know we have members of the public who wanted to speak. I'm not a veteran, obviously, but my mother just recently retired from the VA, where she was a nurse for many, many years, for all of her career, and all the men in my family are veterans. So I feel, I'm very much in support of this. I mean, I would be anyway, but the fact that my mom worked at the VA, and I spent a lot of time, when I would visit her in Northampton, I spent a lot of time at the VA hospital with her to see. And over the last few years, what happened was it used to be that they were serving primarily, older individuals. Then they started to get people from Afghanistan and young men and young women, and it really changed, and there's a huge need out there. There's just so much need in the veterans community that I'm glad to see that we're taking the step to try to offer whatever we can to these individuals who have sacrificed so much for us. It's really the least we can do. Thank you very much for bringing this forward, Mr. Quintero.
Any other comment, Mr. Draymond?
Well, it's interesting that we talk about the VA facilities themselves. There was a time, I suppose, when I thought that the VA facilities were evidence of how our government was supporting our veterans. It wasn't until I spent years of time taking a family member to and from VA facilities on a very regular basis, years and years of this on a very regular basis, that I realized that, to me anyway, our VA facilities, at least in this area, are perfect examples of why we need the kinds of programs that we're talking about today, because they don't do what we would like them to do. As a matter of fact, to the extent that anyone listening has not been to a VA facility, you should take a drive out and think about what you see there. There are images I saw on trips to the VA that will stick with me my entire life. So I am very happy to see that in our little corner of the county, we're going to move forward on some programs that will concretely help veterans, not warehouse them, but concretely help them. And it isn't every day that as a elected official on this low level that we get to get the opportunity to play a role in bringing this about. So I also want to thank Housing Authority Chair Quintero for bringing this along, and thank staff for the great work they've done on this. This is the kind of discussion and debate that I've been hoping for, not the kind of discussion and debate we had perhaps last time or were hinting at last time. As one council member and housing authority member, I'm not interested in arguing about veterans' housing. I'm more interested in seeing that they have it. So, in any case, thank you, Mr. Quintero, and thank you, staff, for doing a great job with these reports.
Mr. Weaver.
Just want to ask one thing. Staff will be back on Section 8 housing, adding veterans to that. Will we have that discussion in the future? Thank you.
Okay. All right, I have one card. Mike Mohill.
That's a lot of talking. You got my heart, Mike Mohill, long-term resident of Glendale, veteran of Vietnam. I'd like to thank Councilman Quintero, Friedman, Mr. Raymond, Mr. Weaver, for your support of this housing thing. I was just happened to be reading on the internet an article of a young man. He killed his wife, pregnant wife, his daughter, and himself. They called it post-traumatic syndrome. Saturday morning, I met a young man at the gas station getting some cigarettes, and I started talking with this young man, and he told me he was a veteran of Iraq. I said, really? He says, yeah. Mind telling me about it? I'm telling you the story now because I wanted him to come here this afternoon and discuss his life. But apparently, he chose not to. It's pretty traumatic. First of all, he told me, if you ever saw the movie called The Hurt Locker, I was one of those group of people. I had a Purple Heart and a Medal of Valor. I would say he's about 21 years of age, 6'1". He told me that his father and his grandfather were also in the military. And I said, well, why did you join up? He said, I felt it was my duty. I mean, you didn't need a job? He says, no. It was my duty. My family served, and I felt it was my turn to serve too. He came home, shot up, must have spent about 1.5 years in rehab, he told me. He went to Walter Reed and other military installations. And I said, you know what? I wish we could put a face with this for the public to see a young man who was standing, who didn't know he was going to be living 2 years ago. We have a lot of people like this young man. His name was Brent Callender. I wish he called in, but I guess he was too afraid to speak up. Too nervous. He was even nervous talking to me about his experience. But to all the Brent Callenders and Corporal Maxon from Vietnam, I salute you all.
Well, Mr. Mohill, the next time you run into men and women like that, you have to talk to them about the Workforce Development Office there on Central. And
sorry, say it again, please.
The next time you run into a veteran like that, you have to talk to them about the Workforce Development Office on Central and now some of these housing programs, and can direct them to a place where they can get services. It can be something as simple as a resume, or it can be a more intense.
He told me he was fortunate that he could live with his father when he came back to here. He didn't need that, but he said, gee, it was nice to know that it's available. I said, well, check with the local government.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments?
Oh, go ahead.
Ms. Harazian.
Okay. I wasn't born and raised in this country, but the safe life that I'm enjoying and everybody of us enjoying the safe life, it's because of the veterans and the military. So I thank everybody who brought this matter up, and I thank the staff who did great job. And I have a question in the report on page 5, it says, the Housing Authority is granting $10,000 maximum to the low-income elderly households, and they don't need to repay it if they continue to live in the home up to 6 months. But, for example, if they decide to move on after 6 months, I mean, sell the house or something, do they still have to not pay anything back, or just they need to repay it back, the grant?
If they sell after 6 months?
Yeah, after a while, after 6 months, after the rehabilitation.
After 6 months, it becomes a grant.
Oh, it becomes a
Technically, they
grant.
could sell their house at 6 months and 1 day.
Okay.
Don't have to worry about repayment.
Okay, thank you.
I wasn't going to say anything because I approve of everything that's been said, and I don't want to take any more time. And I have several people in my family that are military, and I wholly support this, and would like to make a motion. Would that be okay? Is this only for 6A2, or is it 1? 1 and 2. So I move 6A 1 and 2.
Second.
Roll call.
Authority members: Strayman,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Mincy,
Yes.
Najarian, Karazian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Chair Quintero.
Yes. What's next?
Any authority member or staff comments?
Well, I just want to say that you're a very healthy woman, Ms. Friedman, and it's not too late to join the Marine Reserve. I know you like to exercise and so forth.
Must
and
have seen the target on the back of my door in my office here.
get you through OCS at Quantico without any problem. Okay, next, please.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.